Hey, what's up, guys? Christian Brindle here, and I am back with another video with somebody in the insurance business, in the insurance industry, doing big things. I'm here with my man, Evan McGuffey, who is the founder of MediZues. And guys, I'm so excited for him to be able to kind of tell his story, tell the story of this service, MediZues. It's something that, the more and more I learn about it, and the more I kind of, be able to have conversations with Evan about kind of the functionality of it, the more I realize that it is such a game changer for agents. So I'm super excited to have Evan on. First off, Evan, how are you doing today?
Doing fantastic, Christian Brindle. How are you, sir?
I'm doing awesome. I'm doing awesome. Thanks for coming on today and taking some of your time. So, first things first, I think let's start at the beginning, right? Talk about how your journey getting into the insurance industry kind of started, right? Like what kind of was the intro to insurance for you?
Yeah, I won't give you the long answer, but I'll give you like a medium. It was 2020. I just got my insurance license in February of 2020. We know what happened in March 2020. COVID hit. And
Yeah.
I was living in Vegas. And prior to insurance at that time, I was running a club crawl on the Vegas Strip. So I literally lived on the Vegas Strip, like right behind Wynn Encore. If you ever been there.
Yeah, yeah, I was just there a couple weeks
Okay,
ago.
cool. Okay, nice. So you could have waved to me if I
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
but I was living there, and my job, Christian, was to take like 100, 150, we call them drunk, inebriated individuals from bar to bar, club to club. Well, COVID hits, the strip shuts down, I lose my job, and I just got my insurance license. Let's sell some life insurance, right? There's plenty of file
Absolutely.
expense leads flowing in through Facebook, and I was with FFL at the time, and I just went to work, and I had probably, I think the number's like 1,500 or 2 grand in my bank account. But for whatever reason, I had a bunch of money on credit cards, not like balances, but I had a bunch of credit on there. So I spent like 500, 600 bucks on leads and never looked back. I mean, there were a couple of times when I looked back, I was like, oh, but from there, I
Yeah,
was off to the races. And so I built up a pretty good sized life agency. I was a Hall of Fame producer with Family First Life, which is 400,000 in issue paid business in a 12-month period. And I was 23 when I started with them.
that's
And then
awesome.
I got into Medicare because, with the agency thing, my skill set, Christian, is more just sales. I'm a really good salesperson, and I hadn't developed at that time, and I'd say I arguably still haven't developed the whole managerial skill set because it's two completely different skill sets. And just
Yeah,
because somebody's good at sales doesn't mean that they're going to be good at training. And the last thing that I want to do is bring some loser onto my team, spend hours on him. He's not going to win anyway, and spend all that time with him. I mean, not that it's about the override necessarily, but it's like, dude, I could have slung so much more insurance myself. I just produced. So
100%. Yeah,
my whole thing was I was encouraged to build an agency, started to build one. We did like $100,000 a month in sales. It was cool, whatnot. But I was saying to myself, the extra 5, 10 grand a month is not worth all the bullshit and headache that I felt like I was experiencing at the time for the override. So I said, I'm just going to give my agency away to my top producer, bring them to the top comp that I could. It was only a 5% override. And I'm going to be like, whole thing is yours. You want to sail the ship? You're the captain now, bro. And I went off and I did Medicare. So I'm like, I could just build a book of business myself, not have any. I had 3 employees at the time, 3 full-time W-2s that were just assistants for contracting and recruiting. And I was like, I'm just going to go lone wolf, build up a book of business with Medicare, live off of renewals. And so I just took my work ethic in life, applied it to Medicare, and acquired 600 clients in my first 12 months doing Medicare. It's primarily Medicare Advantage, LIS, and dual clients. And I
that's
was
awesome.
100%.
Very
Yeah,
strong.
thank you. It's funny we're coming full circle because 2 years ago I was watching you doing the six-figure Medicare agent and how to make six figures, and I'm like,
Yeah,
okay, cool. And then eventually upgraded to seven. So rightly so. So I'm doing that, and it was all face to face. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It was all face to face. It was all off of direct mail. So dropping a shit ton of mail, doing everything. I was in the car a lot. I put 30,000 miles on my Tesla that year, but I put on 600 clients that 12 months. But this is where MediZues comes in. Is I put on 600, and nobody really told me about the fall off, the retention. So I had 100 people fall off, like 100, 120. And so I'm saying to myself, like, what the hell? I didn't come into this to churn and burn. I came in this to get some past renewals. And the thing was, like, you're not allowed to reach out to somebody that's already left. I mean, technically, and you don't find out until they already left at the same time. So I'm saying to myself, dude, there's got to be a software out there that'll let me know that my client signed up for a new enrollment application when they sign up, because the data is there, right? The data is in CMS. It's housed somewhere. Why can't I see that? And I don't find out until I looked onto UHC Jarvis or, Humana Advantage, and I see the recently inactive. I'm like, shit. So I knew that the data was there, and we built a prototype a year ago, and I figured out how to get the data, but it wasn't compliant. I was going through Medicare.gov because I knew that if I logged into one of my people's accounts, I could see the future data. So I'm like, it's there somewhere. So we created a prototype that worked with that. And the first time that I ran it was December 8th of 2022. Like the day after AEP ended. And I was telling my developer at the time, yo, I need this done by December 7th. You got it December 8th. It's all good. I saw that I had, what was it? 18 or 20 people leaving, and I saved 8 of them, like in the next day. Because not only did I know that they were leaving, but I knew where they were going. I could see the future plan.
Yeah.
And so I showed my upline, Ethan. He runs Medicare Millennials, and Ethan had 34 people leaving, and he saved like 12 of them in the next couple of days. And he's like, dude, I just made like $3,600 off this. And it wasn't called MediZues at the time. It was just called the scraper, right? And so
yeah,
right. And so he's like, dude, you got something here. And for me, I spent like just under, it was like 10 grand on that prototype. And I'm saying to myself, if I could have saved like the people that left my book of business, that was 100 people, that's worth 30 grand right there. So if I spend less than 30 grand, it'll make sense for me. Right. And now we're offering it for $89 a month with a 30-day free trial, which we'll get into in a second. But it's like, for me, my ROI, if I spend 10 grand and I'm able to improve my persistency year over year, it's going to make sense. But he was like, no, dude, you got to show this to other agents. You got to build this out. You got to get it approved with CMS, then be able to sell to other agents, and they're going to use it. And they're going to save shit ton of money. And seniors are going to get less spam calls, and they're not going to have as much complaints, X, Y, Z. So I was like, yeah, that's a good idea. So that's how we launched October 1st. The whole 2023 was all about, I had a New Year's resolution for 2023, and I had one thing. It was launch MediZues. What are my 3 New Year's resolutions? Launch MediZues, launch freaking MediZues. We did that October 1st. So we're off to the races. We got a bunch of really happy customers. Agents are loving it, using it, and we're off to the races. Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing, man. So I want to highlight a couple of things just for anybody that might have missed that, right? So start off with final expense, crushing it with final expense. For anybody that doesn't know, that maybe might be watching this and, you're in the Medicare game, but you never have really been in the final expense game. If you're doing $400,000 a year in premium, it means you're making more than $400,000 a year, because it's one of those things that for most Medicare agents, they don't kind of understand. A lot of them, some of them do, but a lot of them don't understand the commission structure of final expense, right? Like that's such a strong and difficult thing to do, for a lot of agents and write that much business. Then transition into the Medicare space, right? 600 in basically your first year, which is incredibly impressive. I think what I've always liked about certain systems that are developed by somebody that has been an agent, right? That has been on the front lines and still is an agent, right? In your case, but like somebody that understands what it's like to be an agent, what an agent goes through, what the problems that agents actually are going through on a day-to-day basis. I find that people that create systems that are in that kind of unique kind of perspective, they create the best systems, because a lot of the systems that get created by people that have never sold a policy, that like they've never done it before. I have the same issue with FMOs, people that go, create FMOs that have never sold. I'm like, how can you teach something you've never done?
Right.
And
Christian, that's like hiring a fat personal trainer.
Yeah.
You want the rip, dude. I'm not going to hire you for fat.
Right. Exactly. Like they're going to be great at telling you what to do. It just might not work. But yeah, I think, I've always enjoyed working with systems and products myself that were developed by people that were in the field, are in the field, were in the field, but also were in the field and did it in a way to where they were, you know, incredibly successful producers like yourself. I think like because you have a feel for what the agent needs to solve a problem, probably much more than somebody who's an outsider would be able to do. So I think, that probably a big reason why the system has been as successful in such a short amount of time as it is, I think is because it speaks to your level of success as an agent, in my opinion. I think that's really a great thing, and I think that makes the system even more valuable. So let me make sure I get this right, just to make sure everybody understands this that might be watching. So if I'm a MediZues member, right, and AEP is coming to an end, I can log into the system essentially, and it will be able to tell me all of our members here at CBIS that might be falling off the books. They're still our members, so we still can compliantly contact them, right? They're not canceled members yet. We can reach out, talk to them, problem solve with them, try to save the application, which, is huge, is absolutely huge. I mean, that's a game changer. Do I have that right?
You have that right. Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean,
not only does it tell you, the agent, that your client's contract is ending, meaning that it's getting flipped. So it'll let you know that it's getting flipped, but it also tells you what it's getting flipped to. So it'll tell you, hey, you have Humana Gold Plus, it's getting flipped to United Healthcare Plan 2, and this is the contract number.
I think that's huge because, you can formulate knowing what they're going to ahead of time, you can kind of combat that before you even call, like you're going to XYZ insurance company. Well, I know they're weak on this. I know this client needs that. They might not even realize that it's weak on that.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah. And just to mention, you do it all in one click. It's not like you have to run each client manually. You just hit fetch now and it fetches everybody in your CRM.
Yeah. That's that's a game changer, I think, for agents. And I love that you do the 30-day free trial so people can try it out, get a feel for the system, because you're so confident that once they try out the system, they're not going to be able to do business without it, which I think, is, I think you articulated it perfectly, because if it's $89 a month, let's say $1,000 a year, it can save you thousands of dollars, probably, certainly during AEP, but it can save you a lot of money during OEP. It can save you money during, the off season, everything like that too.
Yeah, throughout the year. My whole thing is, dude, if we don't save you 3 people in your first 30 days, then don't get it. You don't have to convert. Yeah. It's fine with me. My goal personally as the founder is to make you like $2,000 during the free trial, and then you got to pay us a measly $89 a month, right? But if we could save you 5 or 6 people times 300, dude, that adds up big time. And
it does.
Can do it.
Yeah.
The other wild thing is, like, you can be watching right now. Right? Now, today is January 3rd, so you're not going to have that many people that switch between the 1st and the 3rd, so it won't be that relevant right now. But if it's the middle of the month or the end of the month, you could really get MediZues right now, run it in like 10 minutes, and make a couple calls to the people that are leaving. And in the next hour, you could keep like 5 clients. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's so powerful. So you mentioned that the system essentially kind of syncs with your CRM. Is there certain CRMs that it syncs with and certain ones that it doesn't, or is it pretty universal with a lot of them?
Yeah, as long as your CRM can export to a CSV file, it's compatible with MediZues. Now, we've looked at integrating directly with Salesforce, Agency Block, Go High Level. The thing is, the authorization that we have to pull data from CMS limits us immensely. So, for example, we can't integrate with Zapier. Okay, so like everybody hoped we could do Zapier. That'd be sick, right? But we can't, because Zapier isn't HIPAA compliant.
Yeah.
Neither, it's not SOC 2 either. So we deal, pretty much everything that we have is PHI. So there is an alternative to Zapier. It's a HIPAA compliant version of Zapier. It's way more expensive. I'm working with the founders on bringing the price down. It's called Keragon, Keragon. It's a startup, and they're like Zapier for healthcare, and we're considered healthcare in this regard, just because we're dealing with PHI. We're going to be integrating with them probably like Q2 of next year. But yeah, to answer your question, we're combating. You just have to export your book of business into a CSV. You upload it into MediZues. MediZues is trained to find the correct columns in the data, and it imports it from there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's incredibly powerful. In the Medicare space, one thing that we hear from agents pretty routinely is the retention problems, especially for new agents coming in, right? And I think it's becoming more and more of a challenge, right? It's becoming more and more of a challenge, I think, for agents with, more call centers springing up, with, more rules, more compliance. All of it, I think, kind of contributes and plays a role. And I've known agents before, like there's an agent that I know really well in Florida, and he specifically targets the dual LIS, low income kind of crowd. His business in particular, he turns over probably 30% of his book, seems like, every year, because it's like 95% dual people, and there's a lot of agents like him, that, they retain 70%, 80%, something like that. I've always said, like, a Medicare agent should probably retain 85 to 90% minimum, but I think it's a different story if you have a book built highly on low income and dual people, which there's a lot more agents now that do that. But, for someone like him, that's routinely, his business is kind of like a revolving door. He has 3 people come in, he has a person walk out. He has 2 people come in, he has a person walk out. He has 4 people come in, 2 walk out. It really is, a absolute game changer, because it takes the ability to retain your client to a completely different level. It's 100% compliant. Another thing I want to point out to anybody that might not be thinking about it, like Evan mentioned, let's say it saves you 3 additional clients a year, which it should save you probably a lot more than that. But let's just say, bare minimum, it saved you 3 a year. He's doing it based off of the first year commission. Like, think about the lifetime value
Yeah.
of kind of that client that you're saving, even if one, right? Like, let's say you save one and the commissions, I'll even lowball it. It's 300. Let's say it's, it is more than that. Let's just say it's 300. You keep that client another 5 years, you saved $1,500 in revenue for your business.
On one. Yeah.
On just one person. Yeah, this is an absolute game changer. So Evan, so basically what you're saying,
not to
oh, go ahead. Yeah,
interrupt you. Can I share my screen and show you guys something?
of course. Yeah. All right. Should work now.
So this is right on the money, what we're talking about. So y'all can see my screen, right?
Yes. Yeah, you're good.
So if you're on MediZues.com, right, we had to go through compliance, and there are a couple months of me just twiddling my thumb, just waiting for an approval or denial, like, to move forward. And I'm saying to myself, Christian, how am I going to show agents and agencies what retention really looks like money-wise, right? Because if I go to you and I'm like, hey, Mr. Agent, hey, Christian, MediZues can help your retention by 3%. You have no idea what that means, right? You can't get excited about that. You're like, I don't know what that means. So I was looking around, I'm like, there's got to be some sort of calculator that'll show me what LTV, lifetime value, right? Not only saving the client this year, but the next year and the next year, what that really means and what that means over time. So we created an LTV calculator, all right? So this is based off of 2 things. It's based off of your production and your persistency. Okay, persistency and retention, I mix them up. They're the same concept. It's just 2 different words. But let's say you're a solid agent, and you come in here, this is MediZues.com, you just go to the calculator, and you got 200 clients that you put on the books that year. And then your retention, let's just say your persistency is 84%. Okay, and I'll show you why I'm using that number in a second. You hit calculate, and on the right, you can see how it fades over time. You wrote 200, 84% the next year, 84% the next year. So if we come over here, your commission per MA policy is 301. All right, we're going to change it. We're a little late in changing it, fair, to 306, not that big of a deal. But we'll change it to 306 for the 2024 commissions. Your true MA production is 168. Just because you wrote 200, 84% stuck on the books, you really only got paid on 168 of them, right? So your LTV, we do the full calculation for you. It's a bunch of stuff that you have to do over 10 years, but we do the calculation for you. At 84% persistency, your LTV per policy is 1348. So in reality, what you were talking about before, Christian, is if you save a client that then stays with you for another 3.5 years, it's worth like 1348. If you have 87% persistency, your LTV is 1579. All right. And so on the right, you can see that at 87% persistency in the orange is a little bit higher than 84. And in this hypothetical situation, an agent produces for 1 year and then they don't produce again. They just let it ride. But where the rubber really hits the road is down here under commissions, under this table. You can see that the first year you're making 50 grand, 42, 35, 29, so on and so forth. And at the end of 10 years, you're at 269, right? So you made 269 grand for 1 year of production, 200 clients. Over time, in total is 269,000. Just a 3% difference, right? This is just to illustrate 3%, 84%, 87%, 3% difference. You're looking at 315 grand. Right? It's extra 50 grand over the next 10 years. This year, it's worth an extra 2 grand. The next year, it's worth an extra 3 grand. The next year, it's worth an extra 4 grand, right? In total, it's worth like 50 grand extra. And the big kicker here, Christian, is that this is only off of 1 year production, and you didn't spend any more money on marketing. You didn't buy any more leads than you otherwise would have.
Yeah.
And you didn't talk to any more people than you otherwise would have. You just kept them longer. Right?
It's incredible when you really think about the compounding effect of saving those members and having the opportunity to save those members and what that impact could be, and that's just 1 year.
Right.
Imagine it
So
being saving members every year, over those 10-year span.
Right. So we thought about that too. We're like, what about if we implement this year and for the next 4 years? So 5 years in total, you produce 200 clients per year for 5 years. You can see on the graph, it changes. You're on the up and up for 5 years. After that, in this hypothetical situation, you're not producing anymore. But this is where the numbers get ridiculous. So 1.3 million versus 1.5 million. Right? That's a $200,000 difference. And the big kicker is that it's only a 3%. It's only a 3% increase. And you didn't spend any more money on marketing and leads. What's your number one expense? Marketing and leads. You didn't have to spend any more just to gain an extra 200 grand in your bottom line. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's so powerful. It's so powerful. I mean, guys, for anybody that's watching this, if you want my opinion, this system is a no-brainer for you to have. Like a lot of you guys are spending more on Starbucks every month than the subscription fee, and you have no ROI on Starbucks. You know what I mean? Like, this is such a powerful tool. Props to you, Evan, for being able to kind of, develop this and kind of put it together, because it's such a need in the Medicare market right now. Where's the best place that people can find information about MediZues?
Yeah, MediZues.com, MEDIZUES.com. And if you want info about, more about behind the scenes and how the product works and compliance and all that, you could go to the footer and it'll show you, like, we're HIPAA compliant. We're going through a SOC 2 audit. That's a 3-month audit. That's pretty much the gold standard in data security. And listen, we have agents reach out and they're going to ask you, Christian, hey, will Evan sell my info? Will MediZues create leads for my clients? 1, no, we're not going to do that. 2, we wouldn't do that because we're showing you your clients that are leaving. And then 3, I mean, the authorizations, and I like to call it a compliance colonoscopy, right? They look everywhere and they make sure, like, all I's are dotted and T's are crossed. We're HIPAA compliant. We're audited by a third party called Vanta. Vanta does the same audits for like Zillow and Crunchbase and all the major players. So we got compliance on lock because we're dealing with PHI. And then if you have any issues about like compliance, the other thing is like Humana people ask like, hey, is this compliant to use? Right? Yes, you're calling your current book of business, but 2, the carriers have developed in the past couple of years future term reports. Do you know about this, Christian?
Yes, I'm glad you brought this up. I think it's super relevant. But yeah, I'm familiar with the future term reports.
Yeah, because that was one of the other things I forgot to mention that when I was going over my story, the background of MediZues is I would go on Humana and there's literally a report that says future term reports. I'm like, oh, this is brilliant. It'll tell me that the clients are leaving, but it won't tell me where they're going after.
Yeah.
So I'm saying to myself that maybe there's some sort of platform out there that'll work across carrier and show you the future plan. So
yeah,
yeah.
Absolutely. And I think, even for the carriers that do show the future term, of a policy. Again, like you said, they're not showing where they're going, but not every carrier does it at the same time. Like there's certain carriers that don't provide you with that information, and so it's so powerful. I can think of a million and one ways how it's, incredibly the value I think the agent will get in exchange is, substantially more than what they'd pay for it. So guys, definitely check this out. We're going to throw actually the link to the MediZues website down in the description of this video. So make sure to check it out. It'll be at the very top of the description. We certainly highly recommend it. And, if you're having trouble with retention, or maybe, maybe you're doing a decent job with retention, but maybe you want to maybe do it even a little bit better, this is the ultimate retention tool. So definitely, go and check it out. Get your 30-day free trial just to test it out. And yeah, you guys need this in your business. So Evan, thank you for your time, my friend. This was awesome. And glad to be able to give some exposure, to this platform you've developed to the community. And yeah, it's a no-brainer, guys. So check it out. If you guys like this video, as always, do me a favor, smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. It helps more agents just like you find the information who need to hear it. Comment your thoughts down below. What do you think of MediZues? Make sure to subscribe, and we'll be back with you next time. Thanks, guys.